What's happening, football fans? Nick Ciamarra here, welcoming you to another episode of Control Chaos. Today is Saturday, July 28th. On today's show, I have my good friend Kevin Crawford here with me in the Chaos studio. You might remember him from the second episode we filmed called Midsummer Chaos. Kev had such a good time that he had to come back and do it again. So how you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. The fuck you laughing for, motherfucker?
No, I wasn't laughing. My voice just faded.
I'm good, man. Can't complain. Excited to be here. Looking forward to this football season to start.
Hell yeah, dude. Glad to have you. Together we came up with some great talking topics, questions for the upcoming season, and as always, we've got news to break down and lots more. So kick back, relax, crank up the volume, and enjoy the chaos. Before we get into anything, I would like to recognize one of the most hardworking coaches the game has ever seen, Tony Sparano. Unfortunately, this past Sunday, he passed away. According to 247sports.com, some of the blood flow in his heart was constricted, and it caused him to have a heart attack and to die almost immediately. In case you are not familiar with this man, he was the Minnesota Vikings offensive line coach. He was also an assistant coach with the Washington Redskins, Jacksonville Jaguars, Dallas Cowboys, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, Oakland Raiders, and San Francisco 49ers. From 2008 through 2011, he was the Dolphins head coach, and in 2014, he was the interim head coach for the Raiders. So he clearly had an impact on many players, coaches, owners, and other members of team organizations. Here at Control Chaos, we would like to send our thoughts and condolences to the friends and family of Coach Sparano. Alright, so yesterday, Titans tackle Taylor Lewan agreed to a 5-year, $80 million contract with $50 million guaranteed, which makes him the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. And shortly after that, Falcons tackle Jake Matthews agreed to a 5-year, $75 million contract. You know, you got to pay the big men. The Tom Bradys and the Le'Veon Bells of the league would be nobodies without these guys. So that's why the great ones get fat contracts like these two. So what do you think about these moves, Kev?
I'm not surprised, man. Like, you got to protect your quarterback. And according to NFL insiders, the Titans actually have the 5th best offensive line in the NFL this upcoming season. So I wasn't surprised that Taylor Lewan agreed to that deal. It's a lot of money. Got $50 million guaranteed. Jake Matthews agreed to a 5-year, $75 million contract, which I'm also not surprised about. Matt Ryan's a great quarterback. You got to protect him. It really opens up the game when you sign linemen like that. A lot of people don't really realize that.
Right, and both these teams got star-studded backfields. You know, the Titans just got Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry's looking great. You got that 1-2 punch in Atlanta with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Also, don't forget about the quarterbacks, Mariota, Matt Ryan. You got to protect those guys.
Yeah,
so,
Derrick Henry's going to need that line too, because how he can't really bounce outside. He's a bigger back.
Mm-hmm.
He's one cut in the hole kind of guy.
Yeah, more of a ground and pound, hit you in the face kind of back. Definitely. So, overall, I think these two moves are great. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Todd Gurley agreed to a 4-year, $60 million contract extension with the Rams, and $45 million of that is guaranteed. So, Kev, I want to know what you think about this move.
I am not surprised whatsoever. We're talking about a guy who had MVP-worthy numbers last season. He had a little over 1,300 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. And this dude got targeted 87 times and caught 64 passes. That is insane for a running back. He had 788 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. This dude is unstoppable right now, and I'm not surprised. They definitely gave him what he deserved. And 45 guaranteed, awesome. Good for him.
You think he keeps it up next season?
I think he's even better.
Wow. So more catches, more yards, more everything?
Yep. More targets.
I could see it. You know, at this point, I don't think he has to do everything. You know, Jared Goff looks pretty good. They got Brandon Cooks now. They got a solid receiving core with other young receivers like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. And, you know, I would love to see him put those numbers up again. But I feel like some of the workload is going to be more on Jared Goff and more on the passing offense. I still think Gurley's going to get the ball plenty, but I think they're going to try to even it out and save his value over the years so he's not getting beat up every game, not wearing down so soon. I could see that. I could see them sticking to their guns, playing with what works, and it's going to be exciting to see the Rams offense this year.
When you bring in weapons like that, like Brandon Cooks, and when you have Jared Goff found a safety blanket kind of in Robert Woods last season we saw, and Cooper Kupp was, I think, targeted 20 times in the end zone.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting to see that, and they're only getting better, so a lot to look forward to next season. So, Julio Jones and the Falcons agreed to terms that make everyone happy. Earlier this week, Jones was planning to sit out training camp and lose $40,000 per day of camp if the Falcons didn't pay him more money. But on Thursday, Jones and the Falcons agreed to take money he was supposed to earn in 2019 and add it to the remaining 3 years of his current contract. So, I'm glad both sides are happy. Everyone wants to see Julio Jones in the league, not sitting out, not losing money. So, Kev, what do you think about Atlanta moving this money to this year?
Good move on Julio. Good move on Atlanta. I really like Julio. He's top 5 wide receiver. He performs. He deserves that money. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future seasons.
Yeah, definitely. Oftentimes we just look at the game of football and it seems like these guys are getting millions of dollars, so why are they fussing? Why are they wanting more money? But these guys are businessmen. Julio is a businessman before he's a football player. If he feels like he's not getting paid what he needs or what he thinks he deserves, then definitely fight it. Definitely do what you got to do to get the money you think you deserve. Because, you see a guy who's, in Julio's mind, not as good as Julio, getting paid more. And that doesn't sit well with these guys. And they feel like they deserve more. And I totally get it.
I don't really agree with them sitting out in training camp and losing money when they want more. I don't agree with that. And wouldn't you want to show up and prove to your team that you're going to make an impact and do as much as possible to prove to them that you are the player that you say you are? I just don't agree with the sitting out. I agree with them wanting more money, but I think they need to find other ways to do it.
Yeah, but see, a lot of that is teams holding out and not paying them over time and waiting for them to just cave. And they would love for on Tuesday if Julio was like, you know what, this money is fine, I'll take this, I'm ready to play. They would have loved to hear that and save money. But Julio was tired of it. He wanted a new contract a long time ago. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to training camp now. I'm a businessman before I'm a football player. And he just put his foot down and got what he wanted. So I like that.
I know that these organizations snub players a lot, and they want to get them for as cheap as possible because, let's be real, they're a business too. They can't afford to be shelling out too much money to somebody. But Julio does deserve it, and I'm glad he got a deal done because I really love watching him play. He's electric on the field.
Right. There's definitely two sides to look at in a situation like this. So for the second consecutive year, Aaron Donald plans to sit out training camp until a new deal is done. Donald is now on the final year of his rookie contract, and he is set to make $6.8 million this year. Donald is arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, and he's still getting paid like a rookie. Meanwhile, Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks just got contracts that guarantee them over $45 million going forward. So, Kevin, what do you think about all this Aaron Donald talk, all that's going on with the Rams right now?
I know I said I don't like players sitting out for training camp, but this scenario pisses me off. Aaron Donald has consecutively shown how good of a player he is. He is the best defensive tackle in the NFL, in my opinion. He averages 37 tackles a season, which is insane for a defensive tackle, and 9 sacks a season. It's insane. But the Rams bring in people like Marcus Peters and Talib and Ndamukong Suh, and they decide to pay them before they pay this guy.
Right.
I don't understand. You got to secure your players first. You don't bring in other players and pay them first. When you have the best defensive tackle in the NFL, you pay him.
See, like, you would think that. You'd think that they would pay their guys first, but see, they can hold on to Donald. They can keep pressing him and saying, stay on your contract, stay on your contract. But when you get a guy like Talib or Marcus Peters or Brandon Cooks, you got to pay them first to even get them over it. Like, they've had Donald since 14, and they can be assholes and say, stay on your rookie contract. And, Donald is fed up for the second year, and he wants more money, and I totally get that, just like Julio Jones. So, I hope he gets paid. I hope it all works out, because the Rams are definitely, like I said earlier, going to be an exciting team to watch. And one last thing about this topic. You brought up 37 tackles from a defensive lineman. Imagine those running backs. Imagine how many running backs came through that line and just got destroyed by Aaron Donald.
Absolutely blasted when they come up that hole. I'm not surprised he doesn't knock people's helmets off every time.
37 last season. That's unbelievable.
9 sacks.
And 9 sacks. Yeah, 9.5 sacks.
He's getting to the quarterback. He's mobile for a big guy. He's 6'1", 280. That's insane.
And 9.2 sacks. So Earl Thomas also plans to sit out training camp and possibly the regular season until he gets a new deal or until he is traded. About a week ago, he said publicly that he wants more money or to be traded. Thomas is on the last year of his 4-year contract worth $10 million a year. He is 29 and has spent his entire 8-year career with the Seattle Seahawks. I could see him actually sitting out until the regular season. His old teammate Cam Chancellor did that a few years back, where he sat out like the first 4 weeks of the season until Seattle wasn't doing well, Russell Wilson was struggling, and he felt like he had to play ball and kind of save the team. I don't see what's stopping Earl Thomas from doing that if he doesn't get this money or if he doesn't get traded. So, Kev, what do you think about this?
Legion of Boom is gone. It absolutely crumbled. Sherman left, went to the 49ers. Chancellor retires. At this point, I think Earl Thomas is more trade bait for the Seahawks than not. The front office is weird. We've seen it in the past. In the 2014 offseason, they traded Max Unger, a center, debatably the best one in the NFL at the time, and a first-round pick for Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jimmy Graham's great and all, but that trade, bizarre.
So I think Earl Thomas is trade bait because that front office is sus. I don't really know what goes on in their minds, but I don't think that they're going to pay him what he wants. I think they're going to trade him. I think he could end up on the Cowboys or something.
You might be right, yeah. There's a lot of rumors him and Jerry Jones have been talking about him possibly getting a contract with the Cowboys. But like you said, they're weird up there in Seattle, but how do you not pay Earl Thomas? Like, that defense is just falling apart, like you said. You got to keep a guy who's been there 8 years, who's proven himself nearly every year that he's one of the best safeties in the league, and only 29 still. Man, you got to pay him. Figure it out, Seattle. Figure it out.
Don't forget, they let go of their Super Bowl MVP, Malcolm Smith.
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't pay him, and he got a fat check from the Raiders.
True. Yeah, Malcolm Smith, another name that Seattle let go. Young linebacker talent, could have been great in Seattle. Instead, he went to the Raiders, played decent, wasn't great, but played decently. So, another situation where we'll just have to wait and see and hope for the best.
Michael Bennett, too.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Good
defensive end. He's on the Eagles now. They paid him.
See, I kind of feel like that was...
He's a hothead.
Yes,
he's a hothead.
More about that. I mean, no one's disputing the football talent. Michael Bennett is a beast. But, I think a lot of what Sherman is starting to say now about Seattle's locker room and how they operated with Pete Carroll, I think a lot of those guys on defense, including Sherman, including Bennett, I think they weren't communicating the way they should. And that could be a big reason why you're going to see Sherman on the 49ers, Earl Thomas wanting a trade, all these guys like Bennett leaving to go make more money, play on a new team, get a fresh start. And, I think something's up in Seattle's organization.
I'd have to agree.
All right, so since the draft, a lot of rookies have been signed like you'd expect. Guys like Josh Rosen, Denzel Ward, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Baker Mayfield here recently. So, Kev, what do you think about these new signings and some of these fully guaranteed contracts?
Well, the Giants gave Saquon a 4-year deal worth $31.2 million. That's fully guaranteed. The Giants didn't have to pay him that much.
Right.
They didn't have to guarantee it either. So I think that's a little ridiculous, giving somebody who hasn't even played an NFL game yet $31 million already. That's insane to me. But Saquon, like we talked about in Midsummer Chaos, he's an absolute workhorse. He's a great running back, and I'm excited to see what he does for the Giants. I think he goes first round in every fantasy draft.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. He's in at least the top 15. So what do you think about Baker's contract?
I love Baker Mayfield. I'm really high on the dude. Don't get me wrong, but Cleveland, what the fuck? You've had 28 starting quarterbacks since you've moved back to Cleveland in 1999. And I guarantee you we're going to see 29 and 30 this season.
Oh, yeah.
Cleveland shelling out $32.5 million guaranteed to Baker Mayfield is absolutely ridiculous. That's not Baker's fault. That is the Browns organization at their finest hour. Absolutely ridiculous. They did not have to guarantee that money. They should not have.
It's unbelievable. I'm still amazed by Cleveland. I think it's a good move. I think it's going to pay off. But, you got to look at the history. You got to look at how much money they ended up paying Brock Osweiler. How much they invested in Deshaun Kaiser and then just traded him. It goes on and on. RG3, Brady Quinn, all the way back to Tim Couch, for Christ's sake. I think it's fine. You want to pay Baker and all that before the season starts. You have to. But that much money guaranteed, like Kev said, I think is too much. Too much. It's putting all your chips on what you think might happen. I think it'll happen too, but it's so risky. It's so Cleveland.
Yeah, it is Cleveland. I'm excited to see what Baker can do, but keep in mind, he's coming into a team that was 0-16 last year.
Right.
0-16, and they want to pay him $32.5 million. I don't know. Cleveland's just got something going on upstairs.
All right, so for our first non-news related topic, we're going to make predictions for non-playoff teams. And, there's some teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that we think are going to do well and have a good start this season, which means essentially over 500 by week 6. Kev, who do you got for a non-playoff team that you think is going to be 500 or better by week 6?
Nick, I got to go with the 49ers.
The 49ers. Good pick. I like that.
We got Jimmy G in there. They just got him. And the 49ers really struggled during the regular season. And they had trouble with their QBs. When Beathard went down, they were 1-10. And that's when Jimmy stepped in and really excelled. They went undefeated for the rest of the season, and Jimmy got them to 6-10. They re-signed 3 starting linemen and bought in a 2018 first-round pick guard, Mike McGlinchey. He's going to make an immediate impact. They have Marquise Goodwin, who is their number 1, and a decent receiver at best. They lost Hyde, but brought in a dynamic back with Jerick McKinnon. So their offense has the capability to be incredibly proficient at scoring. The defensive side isn't much different. They didn't lose any key players on defense. They re-signed Cassius Marsh in February and even signed free agent corner Richard Sherman, who's a proven leader that this team has really lacked defensively on the field and in the locker room since debatable Hall of Fame linebacker Patrick Willis retired. So with all these factors, I can see them picking up right where they left off last season and at the beginning of the 2018 season ending up around 5-1 by week 6.
5-1, wow. I could definitely see that. I think their defense needs a little bit more improving, and I think they need one more playmaker. But a lot of what you said, I agree with. And, it's going to be tough in that division also with the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seattle Seahawks. So,
who knows if Dez lands there?
Yeah, right. That was my first prediction, Dez to the 49ers. It's such a good fit. Even though he's not the playmaker he used to be, he can still offer them a solid receiver, go up and get it still. I think Dez would be a great fit, like I said a long time ago back in free agency.
Who you got for a good start, Nick?
All right, so for my good start team, I'm going to take the Houston Texans. I love what I'm seeing out of Deshaun Watson. DeAndre Hopkins has not missed a year. He has not missed anything. He's always there no matter what quarterback is throwing to him. He's always making plays. And also they got Will Fuller, who, if he can stay healthy one season, he can be great. I think, if you keep those three guys healthy and they play as hard as they can, I think this offense is unstoppable. Also, don't forget Lamar Miller is a decent running back that they got. Doesn't always get as much credit as he deserves because he's not a superstar like Le'Veon Bell or Ezekiel Elliott. Lamar Miller is still going to make plays for your team. He's going to run the ball well, and I think he's still got some gas left in the tank. Also, they get J.J. Watt back after injuries. Hopefully he can stay healthy again. That defense also just added Tyrann Mathieu in free agency. And he's a hell of a safety still. I think he's got a lot of talent. Also, they got Whitney Merciless and Jadeveon Clowney on that defense. A lot of great leaders, a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I think after week 6, the Houston Texans are 5-1.
Personally, I can see that happening. I don't like Deshaun Watson because he went to Clemson. I'm a South Carolina guy. But I got a lot of faith in him. I think he can come out this year and really ball out coming off that injury. He's got a lot of weapons around him. That team's really talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. I think 5-1 is right where they're going to be at.
All right, so now we're going to get into the opposite of that segment. We're going to do bad starts for teams that made the playoffs last year. So right off the bat, Kev, who you got?
I got the Chiefs, man.
Okay.
Losing a QB like Alex Smith in the offseason, who's a proven winner, is honestly devastating to that organization.
Uh-huh.
And now they have a fresh QB with Patrick Mahomes, and learning this new system for him and establishing that chemistry with his wide receivers and his running backs with that offense isn't easy, especially with Andy Reid being there. Granted, they saw something special in him because they moved up with the Bills in the 2017 draft to take him 10th overall. Nobody saw that coming. That was an absolute shock to me. Dude's got an absolute cannon too, but finding that chemistry as a young Q is a challenge. They have weapons in Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, and Tyreek Hill on the offensive side, but it's risky to bet on this offense because who knows if Hunt, who tore it up last year, hits that sophomore slump and not live up to his production expectations. On the defensive side of the ball, their pass rushers are getting old and their secondary is suspect, especially after losing Marcus Peters to the Rams this offseason. All that being said, I think it's the offense that really has problems clicking early in the season. Patrick Mahomes, who's an unproven second-year quarterback. I have them at 2-4 by week 6, and maybe they can start to find the flow around midseason. But yeah, 2-4 week 6 is what I'm sticking with.
So just a nosedive for Kansas City.
Nosedive.
Ooh. I want to call you crazy on that, but I could see it happening. I could see 2-4. Towards the end of the season, Kansas City just looked like, even with Alex Smith, Kansas City just looked like
lackluster.
This inconsistent team losing, getting, let's say, 14 points, and then losing 28-21, just blowing the end of the games. They were not a fourth quarter or even a second half team for that matter last season, and I think Andy Reid sticks to his guns, and maybe you're right. Maybe 2-4 is where they land after week 6.
Who you got, Nick?
So my team that made the playoffs last year and I think is going to start off below 500 after week 6 is the New Orleans Saints. Losing Mark Ingram to a 4-game suspension right off the bat is not a good start. It seems like nothing because you got Alvin Kamara there, but a lot of Alvin Kamara's success came from Ingram and Kamara going back and forth, sharing the ball, sharing the workload. And Drew Brees is only getting older. They do have a lot of young talent on the team, but besides last year, the Saints have been an 8-8 team, a 6-10 team. It probably sounds crazy to say this team is going to be below 500 after week 6, but that's my bold prediction. That's my gut feeling. It's what I think will happen.
I could see that happening. I mean, Breeze is always an amazing quarterback. Like, I don't think he can
always.
I would say so. I don't really. When's the last time he's really lacked in production? I can't remember a time.
A lot of times, like last season, he was a game manager. He was like Blake Bortles almost. Not saying he's like Blake Bortles, but I'm saying a lot of times he needed that running game.
He's getting old.
Yeah.
He's getting old.
Yeah. He's getting older, and he's becoming more of a game manager.
Yeah, I can see Breeze becoming more of a game manager, and like you said, he is getting old. But I think my love for Drew Brees and that kind of stuff gets in the way of me actually seeing it. But I do agree with you that the Saints can fall pretty hard because they got Ingram on the suspension. Kamara's he could hit the notorious sophomore slump. We don't know. We haven't seen him get a full workload yet, so we'll find that out this season. And also that defense is super young. Who knows if Marshawn Lattimore comes out next year and does the same thing? We don't know.
Right. I mean, they look good. It's a good-looking team on paper and all that, but if I had to pick a playoff team that I think is not going to perform as well, be below 500 after week 6, I got to go with the Saints. There's too many little things that I think could bring them down. All right, so a few days ago, 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garappolo said, quote, "I thought in my head, I'm better than this dude. It was always a quiet confidence." Garappolo said that when he was asked about what his mentality was when he was a backup to Tom Brady. I think it's great. I think, every backup quarterback in the NFL or in any sport should think like that about their superior. If you don't feel like you're going to get better than the guy ahead of you, if you don't feel like you can work as hard as the guy ahead of you, then what are you doing besides collecting a paycheck? What do you think, Kev?
I like Jimmy Garoppolo, but he's sitting behind Tom Brady. And keep in mind, when he was backing him up, Brady was in his prime. So he's thinking this in his head, that he's better than Tom Brady. I like that he thought that and that he wanted to get better than him and that kind of stuff. But I think that he got a few wins under his belt. He hasn't lost yet. I think he's getting a hot head. And I think coming into next season, he might get a rude awakening when he gets popped.
See, I disagree. I think, all right, let's say you're like Sterling Shepard or one of the Giants receivers right now. You still got to be thinking, I'm better than Odell. I'm better, even if it's not true, you got to think like
it's
that.
the mentality.
And I think that's where Garappolo is coming from when he said that in an interview where he was being completely honest, just saying what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Not trying to badmouth Brady, not trying to do anything like that. He was just saying what went through his head when
he was sitting there.
He was sitting behind him.
He had no disrespect to Tom Brady, so that I guess you could take that away from that conversation is that he wasn't bad-mouthing him like you said. And I guess in the long run, looking at things, the cockiness is good, but if he gets too big of a head, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know him personally, so it could be cockiness. It could be him thinking a little bit too much of himself. If I had to bet, I would say that Jimmy Garoppolo is being himself. He was just being honest. I don't think he really thinks he's better than Tom Brady right now. I think he believes he can be better than him. He can eventually play like Brady at some point, but I don't think right now he actually thinks he's better than Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's where I'll have to disagree. I think it kind of is cockiness. But he didn't disrespect Brady. He didn't say anything bad-mouthing him. He also said it was a quiet confidence. So he didn't actually say that to Brady or say that to the coaches, so that shows a lot on his character.
True. All right, so one of our biggest, I don't want to say concerns, but something we're thinking about right now is the whole Raiders offense at the moment. You got Derek Carr, who's coming off one of his worst years so far. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it's still was not a good year for Derek Carr or the Raiders. You got Marshawn Lynch, who clearly hit his peak a few years ago with the Seattle Seahawks. And now he's not so much of beast mode anymore. He's still good. He can still run the ball. But, it's not the same Marshawn Lynch. And you still got him eating Skittles on the sideline, dancing around. You got him running on the field mid-play to defend Derek Carr. So there's a lot of chaos in Marshawn Lynch still. Also, you got new free agent signing Martavis Bryant, who's been busted for weed way too many times. Even missed the whole 2016 season because of it. And, makes you wonder, is he going to do it again? They also signed wide receiver Jordy Nelson, who hasn't played with a different starting quarterback, I should say, than Aaron Rodgers since 2008, which is going to be a huge switch up for Jordy Nelson. Last year we saw him and Brett Hundley, and it was a disaster. His best games were where he got like 3 catches for 15 yards. It was like when Rodgers left, Jordy Nelson left. So I know Derek Carr is much better, and he's had more experience than Brett Hundley, but will him and Jordy Nelson get that chemistry? Will we see the old Jordy Nelson in Oakland? Who knows? Also, the team is moving to Vegas next year, the gambling capital of America. There's a lot of stuff to do out there, a lot of trouble to get in. So it's really going to be interesting to see how Jon Gruden runs this team, especially this offense this year and going forward into Vegas. So, Kev, what do you think about this new Raiders offense?
Well, I wanted to talk about how they lost Michael Crabtree, and that's a big hit for this offense because he's a go-to guy
without a doubt
in the end zone. And he was the Raiders' number one end zone threat. And losing a playmaker like Crabtree to Baltimore Ravens this offseason is honestly more impactful than people think. They brought in Jordy Nelson, like you said, this offseason, and he came back from his injury in 2015, but really hit a downfall this past season. And I don't think that this is the receiver they need to lead this wideout core, especially with him being on a downfall and being 33 years old, which is an old age for a receiver in this league. The Raiders already have an inconsistent wide receiver in Amari Cooper, who was an absolute bust in the 2017 season. I'd like to thank him for personally ruining my fantasy team. I honestly would have trusted Jason Pierre-Paul more than Cooper to catch passes out there last season. Also, I want to mention that Derek Carr hasn't quite gotten the chance to bounce back after breaking his fibula in 2016 and fracturing his back in a Week 4 matchup against the Broncos in 2017. This QB and receiver core is suspect, and it will be interesting to see how they click if they are all healthy and on the same page, but in my opinion, there's a pretty slim chance of them clicking well. Now, Jon Gruden is the head coach, and he's been away from coaching for too long. Pretty much, I think it's been 10 years. He's been an announcer and an analyst since he left coaching, so he hasn't been away from the game, but coaching is a completely different side. The Raiders are taking a huge chance because they signed Gruden to a 10-year, $100 million deal, who's been away from coaching since 2008. Gruden won a ring with the Bucs in 2003 when he was only 39. So his track record speaks for itself, but when you pay a guy that much and lock in a contract that long, he should have multiple rings. Gruden is a good coach, and I'm personally high on him, but this is just too much money for a guy who's been out of it so long. Overall, they still have Marshawn Lynch, who produces every year, a Super Bowl winning coach, and possible Pro Bowlers in Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, and Derek Carr. But a million things have to click between these guys before anything special can happen. Overall, I'm excited to see how this pans out.
Yeah, me too, man. Going back to what you said about them paying Gruden all that money, I think Jack Del Rio was a great coach. I really don't. I guess they're going for like that Vegas look, that Hollywood team look with Gruden, and that's all cool. But Jack Del Rio was a good coach, and I think they just kind of pissed him away, and he didn't really get the credit he deserved when he left Oakland.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now, Gruden, I don't know what the hell he's doing. Apparently, he hasn't talked to Khalil Mack since he's been a part of the organization.
That's ridiculous. You signed that guy.
He's arguably your best player. I still think it's Derek Carr, but easily your best player on defense.
On the defensive side of the ball, yes.
One of the best pass rushers. You got to figure out how to communicate with that guy, or that's going to be a long list of problems waiting for you. Waiting for this team, I should say.
I think that transition to Vegas is really what's going to do this team dirty. I could see Marshawn Lynch getting busted at the red light district.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a whole nother beast, them going to Vegas next year.
They're already in Oakland. They're close to L.A.
Yeah.
Vegas is a completely different story.
Should be interesting. Very interesting. All right, so recently, Super Bowl champion, 7-time Pro Bowler, and 4-time All-Pro team selection, Darrelle Revis announced he was going to retire from the NFL. Now, every time we get a player like Revis who retires, we got to ask ourselves, is this guy worth being inducted into the Hall of Fame? And, I think he is. I think he's proven that he can go toe-to-toe with guys like Randy Moss and Dez Bryant back in his day and shut them down almost. Not always shut them down, because no corner that I've ever seen can do that, but Darrelle Revis could get damn close to completely shutting out some of the best receivers. And it's been a long time since I've seen a corner consistently do that. So, Kev, what do you think? Do you think Darrelle Revis is a Hall of Fame cornerback?
Absolutely, Nick. Absolutely. He's got 29 career interceptions over 10 seasons. He's got 140 passes defended, which is a lot. And not to mention that he's a corner and has 12 fumble recoveries.
Right.
So what he has, and he's Super Bowl champion.
Uh-huh.
What he has, it's a resume for the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I think he was one of my favorite players to watch play. I almost bought his jersey once, but he went to the Patriots. So
and the Jets, yeah. Jets looks ugly. Patriots is the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do either. But, so we have to agree on that. We think Revis Island has a firm grasp on the Hall of Fame. We think he's going to make it. And I look forward to seeing Darrelle Revis in Canton.
For anybody who thinks Darrelle Revis doesn't belong in Canton, why not? Why does he not belong there?
Yeah, please contact the show. Let us know. What do you think? I'm looking for more opportunities to engage with the fans of the show. So if you don't think he's a Hall of Famer, or you want to tell me why you think he's definitely a Hall of Famer, whatever. Feel free to let us know at our Instagram, on my social media, whatever. Feel free to let us know. Alright, that about wraps it up. Here's some last-minute news you guys should know about. Cornerback Jason Verrett for the Chargers will likely be out for the season after an injury during his conditioning test. And that's really going to hurt the Chargers next season. Jason Verrett is a huge, huge component on that defense, and that's no good for LA. And lastly, the Titans signed tight end Delanie Walker to a 2-year, $17 million extension, which makes complete sense. You got to hold on to your reliable receivers, especially a guy like Delanie Walker. Unfortunately, Kev couldn't be here for the outro, but I want to thank him for joining me again. If you guys are looking for more content, we've got plenty more updates, highlights, and Controlled Chaos related posts on our Instagram and Twitter accounts at CONTR Chaos. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and tell us what your thoughts are about the show, the game, topics, or questions you have for the show. And as always, have a great weekend. Make sure you stay tuned to our social media accounts for that contest I've been talking about.